Oh, you damn right. Recruiting never stops, and it's recruiting hour time once again. Big visits in the rearview mirror, but big visits coming up. And you know those big June days are coming up too. We'll talk about a lot of it. Don't worry. Felix Ojo stuff is coming right here at the top. We know what you want. It is the recruiting hour, and it's brought to you by Longhorn Wealth Management Group. I'm Chad Hastings. That's Jason Sukamel. And that guy in the lower right, yeah, that's John at Longhorn Wealth Management Group. To tell you a little more about him, as we have, he is a lifelong Longhorn, life member at the Texas X's, his wife, his 6 siblings, all UT grads. And John wants to offer all Orange Bloods Live fans a free 90-minute private consultation. You heard it right. Free 90-minute private consultation. Learn how working with a certified financial planner like John can help you maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and secure your legacy. You can call him at 972-707-4900 or go online to longhornwealth.net. Thanks to Longhorn Wealth Management Group for being a great partner here at Orange Bloods Live. If y'all want to jump on in the chat, a few have already done that. Our man Barb's 10 is in. Hump Day. Yes, it is. And we appreciate you jumping in, Barb's 10. We'll keep looking at those chats. If you want to send us a super chat, it'll go right to the top of the list. All right, Jason, speaking of top of the list, Felix Ojo apparently is a guy that has been told he's at the top of a lot of lists, but Texas is one of them. So let's get a little update on Felix Ojo, top offensive line target for 2026.
Yeah, we'll just call him 5-star Felix, right? From now on. Felix, I saw him last weekend out at a 7-on-7 tournament, which is always kind of interesting to see an offensive lineman at a 7-on-7 tournament. But Felix was out there playing for a California-based team, Chad. So help me make sense of that, please. Mm-hmm. But he was snapping the ball to the quarterback, and then he just kind of stand there and look around. But it was always good to see Felix. And you talk about a guy that's top of the list. I was joking with Felix. I said, hey, dude, I said, you're going to get sick of talking to me, but I'm going to start calling you literally probably every other week, maybe every week. I need to record an interview and get him on with our recruiting hour because he's a good interview, Felix is. But yeah, I was like, hey, dude, you're kind of the guy people like to hear about. So I'm going to start calling you we're going to start playing the hits a little bit more. And I'm going to start calling you every other week. But, Felix did visit Texas last week, Chad. It was Thursday and Friday, came in for a multi-day visit. Thursday, he watched them practice. Friday, he watched the team lift. He met with the coaches, this, that, and the other. And you said, hey, top of the list. Well, Texas told him, hey, dude, Steve Sarkisian told him, hey, you are the top player on our board. Now, does that mean top offensive lineman, top overall player? I don't know the answer to that. And I mean, there's some recruiting that goes into that, right? They may be telling John Turntime that. They may be telling 2 or 3 other players that too. But they are making Felix Ojo feel very valued. And they told him, hey, you are a franchise player for us. If you come to Texas, you will be one of our franchise type players, like a Kelvin Banks. So those words really are resonating with Felix Ojo. He's got a top 8, but I do think, and I feel pretty comfortable saying it, Texas is the team to beat right now. Doesn't mean it's a slam dunk. And they still got visits and official visits and those types of things. But Texas is in a good position right now with Felix Ojo.
So, Jason, obviously for the out-of-state guys, the argument can be about why going out of state could be a good thing. But in Felix Ojo's case, you want to make that old-fashioned stay closer to home type of argument. So can you give us any updates there on him, family? How much is the pull to stay close going to be important to Felix?
Yeah, I did ask him that just specifically. I said, hey, because he was accompanied on the Texas visit by both of his parents, and he's got 2 younger brothers. So, and I'm like, hey, and they're young brothers. So I'm like, I don't know how good those dudes will be as football players, but hey, maybe you can develop an Ojo pipeline here, right? If they turn out to be anything like Felix. But
now, I asked, wait a second, Jason, are you scouting 6- and 7-year-olds for talent now? Is that what you're doing?
It's like as soon as Vince Young has a kid, everybody's like, give that kid a scholarship offer, right? I don't care that he's still in diapers, right? So, but yeah, Felix does have 2 younger siblings, but then his whole family accompanied him on the visit. Felix himself told me, location isn't the biggest factor for him. He goes, hey, if I find a good place that's far away, like Ohio State or Michigan or Ole Miss. He goes, I don't mind going away, but he goes, of course, my parents would like to have me closer to home, and we'll talk about that related to another prospect here in a minute. But mom and dad, for the most part, if all things being equal, especially mamas, right? Moms want their boys close to home, so Texas would be a good kind of balance there. It's a few hours away from Mansfield, so he's not too close to home, but he's far enough away where he's got some independence, but close enough where he can pop home on the weekend, or mom and dad can come see him play easily. Now, the other side of that, he is also considering Oklahoma. So Oklahoma's probably pretty similar in distance. But again, I think this is Texas's race to lose. And I do think location, even though Felix directly said it's not really impacting him, I think when you look at the total picture and when he sits down and talks to his family, I think that is something that'll play a factor and will help Texas.
Interesting. All right, so we'll keep obviously keeping Felix Ojo in at the top of mind because that's what Texas is doing. And Jason, definitely put a pin in that turn time discussion because I know he's going to come up a little bit later. I'm fascinated by the discussions going on between Texas and those two guys. So we'll revisit that coming up because turn time is a part of this group that's coming in this next weekend for a visit. So big time offensive lineman discussion definitely coming. So Jason, you mentioned that there's a lot of notes I know you have that you wanted to get through. I was talking about out-of-state guys versus in-state guys. Sometimes there's kind of a mix, maybe a mixture a little bit. Let's talk about Mark Bowman, the tight end. When people see tight end, modern day, California, they're thinking along one line, but there may be something a little different here with Bowman.
Yeah, first off, he's not a 5-star, but he's ranked number 30 right now in the country by Rivals.com. I think he will be a 5-star by the end of this cycle as they start handing out more. So we're going to call him a 5-star tight end, okay, for right now. But Mark Bowman, one of the best players in the country, obviously, an elite level tight end. I talked to him last week. He visited Texas not last weekend, but the weekend before when they had a handful of guys on campus. And I got to talk to him after that visit, and his dad and his mom and dad were there with him. But it was a very brief conversation because he was on his way to the airport. He was leaving campus, literally had time for like 3 or 4 questions. Well, this last weekend, I got to talk to him a little bit more in depth, and we talked about that visit and how much he enjoyed it in the city of Austin and the time with the coaches and the way they use the tight ends and sitting in on the tight ends meeting rooms and even the quarterback meeting rooms he sat in on. But the thing that stood out, he had mentioned to us reporters when he took that Texas visit. Well, his dad actually mentioned his dad's from Texas. Okay. I'm Louisville. I'm thinking he's from Louisville. I had to gather my thoughts here. Of course, obviously they're now in California. And Mark's like, no, man, he moved. Like people, I don't know where this came from because I have never said it. But he said, yeah, people are saying like weird stuff that's not true. Like they lived in Colorado and bounced around. He goes, no, his dad moved from Texas to California. So he's got 2 kind of home bases, if you will. Well, I asked him, I said, does that really matter? I mean, your dad being from Texas, and he goes, yeah, he goes, my dad basically is recruiting me to Texas. Okay. So I was like, okay, that's pretty interesting. And he even used a quote like burnt orange in his blood. Now, he did say he also is okay. He likes USC too. I mean, again, you're like we talked about with Felix, staying close to home, right? And I said, what about your mom? What does your mom think? And he said, oh, mom likes Texas a lot, but she likes USC too. So there's some interesting dynamics there. Normally you have the home state poll saying, okay, hey, we'd love to have our son stay close to home. But his dad is very familiar with Texas. His dad, I don't say he's pushing Texas, but they're very much on board with the idea of Mark going to Texas. And that's not to say they don't like Georgia or USC. I think Alabama's in that group is kind of his last 5 as well. So, but there is some interesting poll, even though Texas is the out-of-state school, there is some ties to Texas, and his dad is kind of, I'm not pushing for Texas, but very supportive of the idea of Mark Bowman going to Texas.
You know what, Jason, if I'm Sark and I find that out, next time I see his dad, I might just walk up and put my arm around him and say, good to be home, isn't it? Good to be home. You just kind of play that whole thing up. It's like, hey, there's Mark Bowman's dad. Talk about the state of Texas as much as you can. Right.
Yeah. And you can talk, hey, there's real estate market in Austin. There's a lot of, you guys might want to just buy a house here and kind of maybe move back to the Lone Star State.
Sure.
Why not? So.
Yeah, you ever think about coming back home?
Yeah.
If you guys want to throw something in the chat, you can. Our man Sandman wants me to know I got a new girlfriend, and she's from the same hometown as my ex-girlfriend, McAllen. Am I a fool? Sandman, I don't know if you're a fool. You know your situation better than we do, but hey, all the best. All the best of luck to you.
Yeah, like I have so many questions, Sandman. Are like the same age group? Do they know each other? I'm assuming they don't live in McAllen anymore. Like I have so many. When I saw that earlier in the chat, I was like, that can be really dangerous. Or maybe you're okay if they've never crossed paths. But
yeah. Sandman says my ex left me because she wanted to move back home, and McAllen ain't my cup of tea. So Sandman doesn't want to be in McAllen, but now he's ended up with another girl that's from McAllen.
Well, hopefully she doesn't end up wanting to go back to McAllen too. But Sandman, right. You're playing with fire. But like, hey man, you do you, buddy.
There it is. Hey, Sandman, do the opposite of what we're talking about here with Mark Bowman's dad. Don't talk about home with her. Yeah. Talk about the whole state of Texas. Talk about new places like Austin or wherever it is you are. That might be a good idea. If you guys want to jump in to the Specs chat, we appreciate you as we're crawling up over 130 in there, headed up towards 200 folks in the Specs chat. Let's give Specs a little bit of love because they have an anniversary that they're celebrating. Not just those big traditional round numbers. Celebrate whatever number you got. Here's the Specs reminder for you to get stocked up.
Have you heard the news? Specs is turning 63, and we're celebrating you. Whether you're looking for whiskey, canned cocktails, or wine, Specs has it all with Texas-sized savings all month long. Specs. Cheers to save.
I know I'll celebrate if I get to 63. I'll celebrate that anniversary all day. All right, Jason. We hit a little Ojo. We hit a little Mark Bowman. How about Jabari Mack? Give me an update there.
Yeah, Jabari, wide receiver who he's interesting. I mean, first off, he's a fantastic player. He's out of Louisiana, Destrehan, Louisiana. I don't know exactly where in Louisiana that is, but he, a couple of months ago, was telling me that, hey, Texas and Texas A&M are my top two schools. Okay, he did that. I think it was at the Texas Junior Day. And then I saw him a few weeks ago, and he's like, yeah, it's kind of evened out. I'm looking at about 5 schools. And then about a week later, he commits to in-state LSU. I'm like, okay, well, that thing kind of moved around quite a bit here, but he did it the same week as Tristan Key. So LSU that same week got 2 really good wide receiver commitments. But Jabari, he is committed, but he is taking other visits still. He was at Texas last week. I haven't been able to connect with him to talk about that visit, but he also is going to still take his Texas official visit. So when I hear in-state kid committed to LSU, I think, okay, that's going to be probably a pretty tough flip, but maybe the door is a little bit more open on this one because, again, there was a time when he was saying, hey, Texas is my co-leader, my co-favorite. So I think he's open-minded to the idea of leaving the state of Louisiana. Texas really values him. Texas, and who knows what's going to go on in Louisiana this year. I mean, with their offense, with their coaching staff. I mean, I think there's a little bit more stability at Texas, a little bit more I say offensive flair for a wide receiver and quarterback stability long-term at Texas. So I think that's one we're going to keep an eye on, Chad. I mean, he is committed to LSU. I'm not saying Texas is going to flip him or it'll be easy, but he is going to give Texas every chance to win him over, including an official visit in June.
Interesting. So he'll be a part of that June group coming in. Yeah, to your point, it will be wild watching LSU this next year or so. Can they get that offense stabilized? Can they get things stabilized to where it feels like we know badass receivers have wanted to go to LSU before. Is that going to change a little bit? Because
they've got a pretty good history of receivers, honestly, but
right. But not last year, the shakiness of last year. I wonder how does that affect a guy like Jabari, or you mentioned Tristan, just in case of like, hey, is this still LSU? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Like, you can look at in the NFL and be like, oh, there's some studs from LSU, but like not really from when these guys have been kind of watching that closely, so not the last few years and certainly not last year. So, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. All right. We're talking about a couple of the guys obviously coming up in this, all the guys we just mentioned, all 2026 guys, correct?
Yes. I'm sorry.
Right?
Yep.
All right, let's duck quickly out of that and into the 2027 because Texas did get a commitment. In fact, the first commitment in the 2027 class. Every time you and I have talked about 2027, Jason, it's when guys are getting out of 2027.
Yeah, reclassifying. This young man might do the same. We'll see.
This one for now, right? For now is truly 2027. He is the first guy on the list. Tell me about Taven Epps.
Yeah, he's a big, and I say big, he's 6'5", 210. So he's big, tall. His frame is filling out. Got him as a linebacker. He started off as a safety. He plays out in California, in Tustin, California. He was a safety his freshman year. His coach moved him to linebacker. He's a big, rangy, athletic linebacker. There's some thought, Chad, he might grow out a linebacker and be kind of an edge defender because to keep that speed and just be a guy that can rush off the edge. But Taven Epps committed to Texas on Sunday. It had kind of been in the works for about a week. He actually made up his mind and told the Texas coaches about a week before that. He thought about doing it on his mom's birthday, which was April 1st, but they decided to wait. So ironically, he did it on my birthday, Chad, April 6th. So maybe he did it as a way. So he did it. He announced it on Sunday. He had been committed for about a week, kind of silently committed. It actually was one of these rare ones that actually stayed silent. So, big athletic defender. He liked UCLA, USC, some of those West Coast schools, but he's originally from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. His father still lives in that area. He still has family in that area. I asked him if that played a big part in his decision, knowing that he has family in the area in the state of Texas. And he goes, honestly, not really. He just kind of loved Texas and just loves everything about it and the program and the city of Austin. So he decided to go ahead and commit early, but you're right, 2027 guy. So, Texas probably going to have to work there. Those West Coast schools aren't going to go away. We'll see what happens long term, but he does become the first commitment in that 2027 cycle for the Longhorns.
And we're talking a legit 6'5" at linebacker. How rare is that?
I did see him actually from afar when he was on that visit a couple weeks ago, but I didn't get a chance to talk to him. I didn't get a chance to sit there face to face with him. So, but yeah, 6'5". That's why some people are saying, "Hey, is he too big for linebacker? Is he going to be an edge?" But this is a guy who played safety before he went to linebacker. So, I think he could probably pull it off as long as he doesn't gain too much weight.
That is really interesting. All right. So again, the first commit there, Taven Epps in the 2027 class, not a reclassification yet, 2027 for now. We'll keep our eyes peeled for all of that. All right. There's another visit weekend coming up. Again, those official visit weekends are coming up in June. These are unofficial visit weekends that are here in April as Texas starts to crank up the recruiting process after kind of chilling out in March. We'll get to some more of that discussion. Sandman continuing to let the chat know. More of a city suburb guy. McAllen's just too far away, and it's in the middle of nowhere. So, yeah, there you go. By the way,
Sandman's his own little conversation in that chat, isn't he? He's doing his own little thing, man.
By the way, to Sandman and all of you single and dating people out there, I'm asking because I've been married a long time, and I've been out of dating, and I'm not going to be dating, hopefully, anytime really ever. But I just wonder, Jason, we have these discussions all the time. In 2025, could I date somebody, tell them I am committed to them, but tell them I'm taking other visits? Like, is that allowed?
I don't think that works in the dating game, Chad. You won't be dating that person very long if you try to pull that one off. Yeah.
So. Can I tell them I've got a top 8 list?
Maybe if you're like George Clooney or Brad Pitt or one of those types. But you and me, no, that doesn't fly with faces like ours, dude. So.
Okay. Don't worry. You're one of the top 8, and I'll let you know in February. That doesn't work.
Okay. Not for guys like you and me. No.
We would not be 5 or 6 stars in that world. Okay, just checking. I'm just wondering. That's it, Sandman. You know what? We will let you have your therapy. You just go.
I love it, Sandman. Keep it coming, brother. We love it.
You do what you need to do. Every once in a while, we peek over there, and we may jump into the therapy session with you. All right, it is the recruiting hour here on this Wednesday. So we were looking back at a couple guys that have just visited, including Felix Ojo. His name will come up here again in a second because I want to talk about this visitor list for this weekend. There are some big names on it, Jason, of guys that are coming in. Let's just go ahead and start with the quarterback position. Fans love to do that anyway. Texas commit Diabell, but also another big name at the quarterback spot coming in. Let's talk about these two guys.
Yeah, Peyton Houston, we've talked about him, the 2027, really the only uncommitted offer that Texas has in that class at the quarterback position. So Diabell, of course, the Texas commitment. He's been in the state of Texas. He was here last weekend. He was at a 7-on-7 tournament up in Dallas. He's been, I think, 2 out of the last 4 weekends he's been in Dallas. Well, this weekend he'll be in Austin for a chance to watch practice, see the coaches, do all that, and do some recruiting, presumably, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's big, getting Diabell back on campus. But Peyton Houston, 2027 5-star type player. I mean, I saw him at the Elite 11 recently down in Del Valle, and I mean, he's again undersized. He's not traditional size in terms of, he's not Diabell at 6'3", but boy, that kid, young man, he can sling that rock. He's got an amazing arm, good head for the position. Just love everything about him. So one big commitment, one big target at the quarterback position coming into Austin this weekend.
So, Jason, I think I've asked you this question multiple ways, but I'll just kind of ask it again, especially now that he's coming into town. Is it something where if Peyton Houston gave Texas an indication that he was interested and that he might want to commit, is there any hesitation on Texas's side there? Or do they do what they did with Diabell and say, hey, you're our guy?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think Texas would take that commitment this weekend if you wanted to give it. That would surprise me, Chad. I would not expect that at all. Knowing Peyton Houston, he's taking other visits. He's still got other places he wants to see. But, yeah, I mean, he is their only offer at the quarterback position in that 2027 class. He did offer one other kid out of Cali who committed to Ohio State. But as far as uncommitted guys, it's Peyton Houston right now. So, yeah, I expect if that was to happen, they would take that commitment as early as this weekend. But that would be a little bit of a surprise.
Gotcha. So there's not some guy out there that would be on Sark's mind where he'd say, ooh, maybe we don't want to do that because of this guy. Peyton is their guy if they could do it.
Yeah, they've got some other guys they're talking to, but I mean, he is right now the guy with an offer. So, yeah, I don't think there's anybody they would hold off on taking his commitment because they like this other player better.
Big names coming in. So Diabell, and obviously with Diabell, he's a guy that's already a commitment. And we always talk about, Pied Piper types and leader types and what they say. What does a guy like Diabell say to a guy like Peyton Houston? I wonder what are those discussions like? So 2 big quarterback studs coming in for Texas visiting this weekend. One of them already committed in the 2026 class with Diabell. All right, Jason, what about running backs? We've said KJ Edwards' name a few times on this show. I know he's going to be in on an official visit in June, but he's coming in this weekend for an unofficial. Give me the latest on the Carthage stud.
Yeah, he's got a commitment date. I believe it's August 2nd. He's already got that date lined up for his decision. Texas will get its chance to kind of counterpunch this weekend. He did visit A&M recently. I still think Texas is a team to beat there, Chad. I like Texas's chances with KJ Edwards, the Rivals 100 running back, like you said, out of Carthage. Chad Scott's done a good job there. He's always been high on Texas, just the program overall, right? But he's also said, hey, for him, it's going to be about relationships. That's going to be a big part of it. Well, Chad Scott's done a good job so far. But this weekend, I got to expect KJ Edwards is going to get a lot of personalized attention from Chad Scott and Steve Sarkisian and everybody else. I think they're going to try everything they can to make him feel at home, feel loved, feel comfortable with the new coaches on staff. And I think Texas sits in a good position. I think they'll be even in a better position coming out of this weekend.
And as we look forward, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong. Again, it's June 6th, the official visit weekend. That's when KJ and Xavier Crowell are coming in.
Yep, that's right. They're coming in that first week of June, both those guys. And, I need to talk to KJ to make sure that's still correct because it's kind of bounced back and forth. But, yes, as of a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, it was June 6th was KJ's official visit date.
And would it also be safe to say, as that weekend begins in June, if Sark and Chad Scott are walking together and Sark leans over and whispers in his ear about those 2 guys, does he tell him, hey, the dream is both, but you got to get that one, pointing at KJ Edwards? Is that still the thought process, you think, for Sark?
I would think so. Xavier Crowell's an out-of-state back. Alabama and Auburn are going to be tough competition for him. He just visited Auburn last week. I believe he'll be at Alabama this week, Xavier Crowell. It's hard to keep up. There's so many kids taking so many visits. I mean, like some of these kids are taking like Monday visits. I'm like, hold on, you're not on spring break. Like, what is going on here? Like, it's hard. Every time I look up on Twitter, I'm like, oh, this guy's going here. He's taking a midweek visit there. And I mean, Texas is getting them as well. So it's not just other programs. But yeah, to answer your question, I think it's more likely Texas gets KJ Edwards than a Xavier Crowell. Now, Xavier did visit Texas a couple weeks ago, and that visit went really well. So, but yeah, the dream would be to get both. But yeah, you can't afford to not get KJ Edwards because you've kind of put all of your in-state eggs, if you will, in that basket. So you've got to close on KJ Edwards.
So I'm just checking here, Jason. You think if I'm in the state of Alabama like Crowell is, if I check myself out of school, if my parents check me out of school because I'm visiting Auburn or Alabama, that's an excused absence, right?
Honestly, it's a college visit, right? Is any different than you and I taking our high school kids on college campus tours? So, I mean, I hope it's an excused visit. Yeah, they just have a little bit more fun than our kids do. So.
Yeah. Now, of course, if the secretary at the, if the person there in the office, they went to Auburn and not Alabama.
Yeah, No, that's not an excuse trip to Alabama or Texas. If you're secretary,
right. Exactly. Yeah, you try to go out of state, that's an unexcused absence. They don't allow that. So KJ Edwards coming in on the running back position. Let's mention another one. This is a 2027 guy, I believe. Elijah Kimball. Not a name I don't think we talked about yet on the recruiting hour. He's coming in to visit. What do we need to know?
Yeah, kind of a new target out of New York, 2027. He put on Twitter a picture like of the Texas football facilities a couple weeks ago. So I was like, oh, Elijah Kimball's visiting Texas. And his coach, thankfully, hit me up and was like, no. He's like, somebody sent us that picture. He just wanted to post it, but he is visiting on the 12th. So, big time player. If I look at, he's a Rivals 250 guy out of Buffalo, New York, like I said, but he's got Notre Dame, Ohio State, Oregon. He's got some pretty impressive offers coming in this weekend. I haven't talked to Elijah. I'm hoping that changes this weekend, but I've talked to his coach. They're pretty excited about this visit. Now, he's a 2027 guy, so I'm not expecting him necessarily, come in and make a commitment or anything like that. But hey, stranger things have happened, right? But I do think they're pretty excited, and I think Texas will give them, a reason to, solidify Texas's position in the race once he visits this weekend.
Really interesting. All right, so 2 quarterbacks coming in, a 26 and a 27. 2 running backs coming in, a 26 and a 27. Big names to look for this weekend on the visitors list. Obviously, check out Jason's stuff at orangebloods.com. The very latest as those visits are happening, but there's a lot of great information there now. The 321 article is up for you right now. Let me flash a QR code for you. Go check out the 321 if you haven't. It's a great time to get signed up with orangebloods.com and check out all that great content. Even more content, new content's been coming out this last month or so, and the folks on the message board are very excited about it. So check out orangebloods.com. All right, Jason, let's roll back to this offensive line discussion because John Turntine is coming in this weekend. So kind of back to the way I structured the show today. I'm fascinated by the discussions they're having with Ojo and with Turntine. This is not the first time, 2 big badasses that think they're left tackles are looking at the same school. So let's talk about the communication process that you think may be going on here. Are they telling John Turntine, you're going to have every right to fight for left tackle? Or did they somehow work in, hey, John, have you ever considered right tackle? Like, how do you think these talks are going?
I think it's recruiting. So you're going to tell him left tackle, right? And then he gets on campus. You might be like, hey, let's try it right tackle. Or let's slide you in the guard or something. But I think right now they're talking to him about left tackle. I won't be surprised when I talk to John after the visit, if he says, yeah, they told me I'm on top of their board. So, I mean, they can tell multiple people that. So, but yeah, John's coming in. It's been a minute. I don't remember. I don't know if I have it down the last time he visited Texas because he wasn't in for the junior day. I have June of 2024. I don't think that's right. I think he probably came in for a game in the fall, but it's been a bit since he's visited Texas. So he'll be in town this weekend. He recently visited Michigan. They're in play there. Texas A&M very much in play there, but Texas will get its chance to kind of try to move the needle there with John Turntine this weekend. Of course, he does have his Texas official visit. Tennessee's another school. Kind of a sneaky play. Don't sleep on Tennessee. They're very much in play there. He's visited there before. He's going to take an official visit, back to Tennessee. But yeah, big development getting John Turntine back on campus. I mean, people ask me all the time, can Texas get John Turntine and Felix Ojo? My answer is yeah, they can. Absolutely, they can. Will they? I'm not predicting that. It's going to be tough to get both those guys if they both fancy themselves as left tackles. that might be tough. Now, if you can talk him into, hey, we could make you guys bookend tackles, or who knows, maybe line you up side by side, John, if guard was something you'd be open to, then that maybe increases your chances. But yeah, Texas will try to get both of them. Right now I have Texas as the leader for Felix Ojo. I'd probably put Texas right up there at the top with a school like Texas A&M maybe for John Turntine. So individually, yeah, things look pretty good. Collectively, can you get them both? It's going to be tough. When the first one commits, will you be able to talk the second one into still coming? That's where it gets tricky.
Right.
But Texas is in a good spot for both of them. John Turntine this weekend will get a really good look. He'll get to watch them practice, get to meet with the coaches, get all that good stuff on Saturday.
Yeah, Jason, when I think about this particular position, we know what quarterback can be. There's only one of those at a time, and only one football. The running back has its own kind of discussions that go in there, because you can have a running back room, you can have the stable, you got a group of receivers. I just wonder how these guys think about, and we've talked about it since the very moment that Felix Ojo in your notes, your reporting said, yeah, Texas is telling me I'm their guy. I'm their number one guy. All I thought of was,
there was one time though, Chad, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Like they're telling him like this time, hey, you're on top of our board. But there was one time they said, hey, you and John are our top guys, like together.
That's true, right? You're right. He did mention John the one time. So I'm just
so it's kind of gone like, hey, you're our guy, and then you and John are our guys. So we'll see what the word is to Turntine this weekend.
Yeah. Just because we know, and it's not like I'm trying to be too detailed here, but we get into these discussions about guys going to meetings. They're talking to Kyle Flood. I mean, these guys know the process here. So I just wonder, at some point, somebody is going to ask Sark or Kyle Flood that question. And I just wonder kind of how they're discussing it with them. And I mean, the ultimate answer is, hey, look, both of you come here and we're just going to push people around. We'll figure out how to do it.
We get our best five on the field. Yep, that's right.
Yeah, right. We're going to put our best guys on the field. Absolutely. So obviously an embarrassment of riches discussion with Texas here.
They do have a recruiting board, or they have in the past. Like, okay, show me the board. I want to see where my name is on that board, because I remember a couple of years ago there was a certain player and they showed him like, look, dude, this is where you're at. They showed him their board. Now they could change that board from week to week depending on who's coming to campus, of course. But hey, I'd love to see that recruiting board to say, okay, how do you truly have these guys slotted? So
yeah, really interesting stuff. So John Turntine, the big offensive lineman, will be coming in for a visit this weekend. So obviously check out orangebloods.com. Coming off of that for the very latest. I'm sure we will talk about Mr. Turntine next week on the Recruiting Hour. All right, Jason, we got more visitors. It's not just that group, although we just hit 5 pretty big names. Let's roll through some of these other names that are coming in. Mason James at wide receiver.
Out of Norman, Oklahoma. He visited A&M last week as part of a 7-on-7 team. I've never talked to Mason. I've texted with him, so I'm looking forward to seeing him this weekend. I just think Norman, Oklahoma, might be tough to get him away from Oklahoma. Like he had told me he was going to visit, I think it was like last weekend, but then he ended up, like I said, go to A&M. So this weekend he's supposed to be in Austin. I believe this will be his first visit. I'm pretty sure it will be. He's a pretty recent offer for Texas. So we'll see what he says coming out of this weekend, but Oklahoma is trending there for obvious reasons.
Jason, I do know one thing. If you check yourself out of a school in Norman to visit Texas, that's 5 unexcused absences. That's 5 of them in a row. Yeah, they don't allow that. All right. I do. I love a cool name. How about Hezzy Kent?
Yeah, you even said it right. Yeah.
I believe tight end. I like it.
Yeah. And and Hezzy's interesting because he is a tight end. Let me see here. I'm sorry. We've got him at 6'5", 260, Chad. So wow. I talked to someone about Hezzy recently, and he is going to take a Texas official visit. So Texas is in this race, but someone told me hey, he might be an offensive tackle long-term. So, I mean, you could kind of talk about him as tight end, possibly even offensive line long-term. He's visited Miami recently. He's got a Miami visit coming up, official visit, Florida State, Florida, Alabama. He's out of Georgia. He's got a Georgia Tech official visit. Interestingly, I don't see Georgia no, I'm sorry. Georgia has offered, but no official visit. But, he'll be in Austin this weekend. We'll see. People I talked to said, he feels like he's pretty open, but I mean, Texas could have a chance there just because he is keeping an open mind. But, I don't think he's been to Texas yet. So this should be his first visit. So pretty early on in that recruitment.
Gotcha. All right, Jason, I'll warn you here. I think I may have gone a little bit out of order. I just love the name. Cozy Okpala. Let's hit him next because I do love that name.
Yeah, Yokosi visited a couple weeks ago, so I actually followed up with him to see if he's coming back this week, and I haven't heard back from him. So I'm keeping him on my list, but maybe I've got him as a little bit of a maybe, if you want to call him that, for this weekend. But he's a linebacker out of the Houston area, Mady Creek High School. Texas, he's been to Texas a bunch. Texas is on him pretty heavily. Let me see. He's got official visits. He's got Houston. He's got Baylor, obviously Texas. And I think he's got Penn State. He doesn't have Texas A&M official visit, or he didn't the last time I updated it, but he's been to A&M a bunch. So I've always thought that one might be an in-state battle, but now you got Baylor and Houston kind of in the mix. Thought maybe Texas A&M, but Penn State, he does kind of have his eye on some of these out-of-state schools. So, I'm not totally discounting Penn State, but I think if Texas continues to push there, I think Texas is in a pretty good spot with Cozy Okpala. And if he comes in this weekend, that'll help again. But he did visit fairly recently, so I'm trying to double confirm if he's coming in this weekend.
Interesting. All right, let's move up to the defensive front. Guy I know we've talked about, Jamarion Carlton. Speaking of great names, and this is one of the pretty highly rated guys on the D line, right?
Yeah, he's top 50 in the country. Out of Temple. It's about 3 months ago, I would have told you, and I think I have my future cast in for Texas, but things have kind of backed down a little bit there. And like, okay, is Texas pushing as hard? And schools like LSU are making a push, and Texas A&M's in the mix there. I still think Texas is in a good spot if the staff is really aggressive in pushing for his commitment, but we'll see if they're going to. He's supposed to visit this weekend, so we'll have a better feel coming out of this weekend. Keep an eye on LSU in that race. That one's LSU has made a move there recently. So he's from Temple. He's right up the road. You'd think if Texas again is aggressive in their pursuit of him, you'd think Texas has a good shot. But I want to see how things feel coming out of this weekend. But he's visited Texas a bunch. It's easy for him to get to Austin from Temple, so he'll make that short drive down I-35 again this weekend.
That could be a big one. And like you said, that doesn't have to travel far to get that done. All right, we got a Damari and a Samari coming up. Let's start with Damari, interior D line, Damari Simeon. What do we need to know?
Yeah, someone asked me about Damari on Orange Bloods, and I'll be honest, I don't know a ton about him other than he's a highly sought-after player. He's out of New Jersey. He has not visited Texas. This will be his first time. He doesn't do many interviews. I haven't been able to get much out of the guy. So, but I'm looking at his offer sheet. He's in the Rivals 250. Rivals has him 192. Okay, as a defensive tackle. But you look at his offer list: Michigan, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Penn State, Tennessee, Texas A&M, Washington. He's Wisconsin. He's got some really Florida State. I mean, he's got some really impressive offers. So I go down the list. Oklahoma. I mean, you can go on and on. So intriguing player, but I don't know a ton about him. I'm hoping to lay eyes on him this weekend while he's on campus. I'm hoping to obviously talk to him after his visit before he heads back to New Jersey, talk to him in person, because he's been, for me anyway, he's been a tough guy to get on the phone or get updates on. So this will be his first visit. We'll see. I would expect, as usually happens, I think Texas will make a strong impression. But, this is a first step of many steps, I think, for Damari Simeon.
I always imagine, Jason, Austin and UT and the whole thing's going to make an impression. But if I'm from New Jersey and maybe I've never been to Austin, how many trips have I made in general? I wonder, how wide do the eyes get when you first walk the campus at UT? That's going to be interesting to see sort of what his reaction is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've only driven through New Jersey, and it doesn't look anything like Austin, Texas, from where the parts I've been. So,
and you just mentioned some big time programs there, but then it's like, how many of those has he been to? Right? Has he been? How many campuses has he actually gotten to see? It's going to be. It's a huge difference if he's never been out of New Jersey. That's going to be a huge, and for Texas, it could be a wonderful contrast.
Yeah, listen, you'd think he'd be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But hey, at the same time, maybe he's a city kid who doesn't like the hills and the green and the lakes. I mean, you don't know until you get him here, right? We'll see how he likes it. So.
Yeah, that's true. Not enough exits, he might tell you. You guys don't have enough exits on your road. I gotta get back to New Jersey. So that's Damari Simeon on the defensive line. Let's get one more defensive lineman in, Jason, and then we'll head towards the defensive backs. Defensive end, Dre Quinn.
Yeah, Dre is from Georgia.
Okay.
Just outside the Rivals 100, pretty open recruitment. I don't think Texas is a major player in this round. I'm looking, he's got a Clemson official visit. He's got Georgia. He's got Mississippi State, Notre Dame, and Tennessee. So, and one more, USC. So we'll see. I think this will be his first visit to Texas, to my knowledge. So I think Texas is playing from behind there a little bit. And, maybe they can make a dent this weekend. But I think this is just one of those deals where he probably is just covering his bases, visiting a bunch of schools this spring. Texas is, and he tweeted this visit a long time ago, so I'm assuming it's still happening. But Texas is going to have to really move the needle this weekend, I think, to get in that top tier with Dre Quinn.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Hey, let's hit some DBs before we wrap up. How about Blaine Bradford at safety?
You know what? I am trying to confirm with Blaine. He did commit to Ohio State, and he's kind of said, "Hey, I'm shutting it down." So I don't think he's coming in. There was a time early on when we had him on this list, so I've kept him on this list. But to be honest, and he's a badass. Okay, I mean, if he comes in, that's big news. But I'd be a little surprised after he committed to Ohio State and said, "Hey, I'm committed. I'm shutting it down." I'll be a little surprised if that visit still happens. But until I hear him say no, I'm going to go ahead and leave him on the list. But I'm not fully expecting him to make it in, Chad.
Gotcha. Okay. So again, check out orangebloods.com for the very latest. Jason will let you know if Blaine Bradford comes in or not. But yeah, that Ohio State commitment could change things a little bit. How about Samari Matthews, defensive back?
Yeah, Samari is interesting. Texas is a fairly recent offer for him, and he's coming in this weekend. He's also coming in for an official visit. There's a lot of talk about, he's from North Carolina. There's a lot of talk about South Carolina maybe being the team to beat there. He did visit North Carolina recently. I got a feeling, Chad, once he gets to Austin this weekend, this kid likes Texas a lot, sight unseen. Okay. I think when he comes out of this weekend, I think we're going to hear a lot of talk about Texas giving South Carolina a run for their money for that top spot. Okay. And I've seen Samari at 7-on-7. He's a good looking player, but true cornerback. He's got some size to him, 6'1", 185. Again, first trip. I know he's really excited about this trip to Texas. I think, again, I'll be surprised coming out of this weekend if I'm not hearing, hey, Texas is a major threat for Samari Matthews.
Interesting. Samari Matthews. And I saw him listed as just a DB. Do you have a sense for whether it's a safety or a corner, or is it kind of open-ended?
He can do a little bit of everything. He's got the size, but he probably will be a cornerback at that next level. He's got those kinds of skills.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's grab three more here. How about Jaquan Snell, listed as a safety?
2027 guy to Waxahachie. He visited Texas just a couple weekends ago. The weekend of Texas Relays came over. It's early. I mean, and he's one of the top players in the country. Let me pull him up where Rivals has him rated. So Rivals has him number 13 nationally, right? So this is a 5-star type talent. They have him as the number one player in the state of Texas, regardless of position, for that 2027 class. It's early, Chad. He's a 2027 guy. I don't know that there's a school I would put above Texas. He likes Texas. He likes the coaches. Obviously, they got some new coaches there, so he's getting acquainted with those guys. He just fits the mold of Texas. I mean, I think education's important for him, staying in state. It's early. There's going to be a lot of competition for a guy his caliber of player, but this will be a second visit in a couple of weeks. So I think Texas is in a good early position for Jaquan Snell.
All right. For the record, I'm being very professional not to have started with him since he is from my hometown. Jason, let's make sure we get this right. Where does he go to school again?
Waxahachie, or how am I supposed to say that?
No, we're not waxing a car. We're walking down the street. Waxahachie.
Waxahachie.
Waxahachie. Gotta have that.
I'm never gonna get it right, Chad.
Short sound at the end, the walk at the beginning. Waxahachie.
Okay, Waxahachie. Why did I think you're from Waxahachie? Why did I think you were from? Oh hell, I thought there was somewhere else in that area that you went to school.
Born and raised in Waxahachie. Yes.
Okay. She graduated from Waxahachie.
Yes, not an Ennis Lion. No, not Ennis. Ennis is the rival. Ennis was the
I
bitter
was
rival.
thinking. I don't know why I was thinking some other school up in that area. So.
Yeah, I was excited when I saw. I was looking through the names and I was like, "Whoa, Waxahachie kid, pretty bad." And then when I saw the ranking, I'm like, "Whoa, not just some Waxahachie kid. I'm some Waxahachie kid. He's an elite level apparently."
Hey, they've got some pretty good players in that program up there.
Yeah.
I mean, Jaquan being the main guy, but they've got some other talents in that program.
Yeah, very cool. We'll keep our eyes on that. All right, couple cornerbacks to wrap us up. How about Brock King at corner?
This one's interesting. Okay, he's out of Port Arthur Memorial. The previous Texas staff was really prioritizing him to the point where I pretty much penciled him in as a Texas commitment. The new Texas secondary coaches come in, and things kind of went quiet for a minute. So I was like, okay, maybe this isn't going to happen. Now, they have now invited him in this weekend. So I want to see what happens this weekend. If Brock King, he also goes by Booby sometimes, by the way, Booby King. Yeah, so I knew you'd like that, Chad. But if Brock comes in this weekend and feels wanted and feels like a key part of, could be a key part of this class, I think Texas is still the team to beat there. But, it's a little bit of unknown coming in this weekend because, they got some new secondary coaches, and we're going to see what they tell him and how much of a priority they make him feel. But he does like Texas a lot. So this weekend will tell us a lot about where that one stands.
To the mothers and grandmothers of really badass, like 5-star level guys, if y'all can start naming them Booby, we'd really appreciate it. Like, we really would. That would be awesome.
We need at least one of those in every recruiting cycle.
I need at least a couple, right? It could be, and you guys have your own name. Booby.
Hey, look, Peyton Houston. Nah, we're just gonna call you Booby. We're gonna call you Booby Houston, okay?
Booby, Bubba, Scooter. Give me something I can play with. Give me something I can mess with. And finally, Jason, how about Hayward Howard? Now, this is a tongue twister here. Hayward Howard?
Yeah, Hayward. He's out of Louisiana. He's got a Texas offer. He's visited Texas before, I believe. I don't have it in my log, but kind of a guy. We'll see, how much they're going to push there. But he's a good player. He's got a lot of LSU's offer. He's got some pretty good offers there. Miami. He's from Louisiana. Anytime I see LSU offer, I know there's a future cast pick in for LSU to win for Hayward Howard. So we'll see. We'll see. This weekend. In this list, by the way, these are the ones that I have confirmed over the last month or so. It'll expand, and I'll probably add some more names to it by the end of this week. But yeah, Hayward's a good one to end on. Good player coming in from Louisiana will be on campus this weekend.
So another big visitors list for this weekend. Be on the lookout for it. And again, orangebloods.com, the very latest. You'll get a war room on Thursday night. Jason's 321 article is out there. Be on the lookout for the rumor mill and all the other stuff, that new content that's out there for a lot of truth and lies and all kinds of good stuff on recruiting and more with orangebloods.com. Spring practice about halfway done, I guess, and headed towards the second half there. The portal is opening up next week, and we're talking plenty about that. Real quick, Jason, before we wrap up, our guy David Keith jumped in with a question for you. What's your insight on Texas and Kosi Okpala, who, of course, we talked about earlier? Okpala seems like a Colin Simmons type of edge rusher, but in a linebacker body, he does need to improve in coverage and fitting the run. That's high praise there from David Keith.
Yeah, look, David Keith doing his scouting report there. I don't know if I'd compare him to Colin Simmons. I've stood there and talked to both those guys. Kosi's not as compact as Colin, if you will, in terms of, But I'll say this about Kosi. What are my insights on Texas and Kosi? He likes Texas, but he does like some out-of-state schools. And I mean, A&M's involved there too, David Keith, sorry. But he's really one of the few in-state linebackers that Texas is truly prioritizing. So this staff really likes him. And there's a couple other guys they're talking to as well. But, I mean, Kosi is kind of the guy, maybe in-state, and then they're looking out of state a little bit too. So, if he makes it in this weekend, again, that kind of got him as a maybe for this weekend. That'll be a big development. But Texas is really making a push there. I think Texas is in a pretty good spot, but Kosi's going to take those official visits. He's a pretty cerebral young man. I don't think he's going to rush into a decision. He's going to take those other visits. He's going to really do his homework. consider both in-state and out-of-state programs. There was a time, in fact, when he told me, "Hey, I don't even know if I'm going to take in-state official visits because I can get to those schools pretty easily." He said, "So I might take these out-of-state visits." Well, lo and behold, he schedules Texas, Houston, Baylor, right? So, but I don't think he has A&M scheduled, or if he does, we don't have that in our database. I need to check with that. But right now, David Keith, I would say Texas. I don't know that there's a school I'd put above Texas for Cosi Okpala right now.
There you go, David Keith. Always good to hear from you. And Sailor Joe, like a lot of folks, itching for college football 26 to drop so it can quench my itch for the season to get here. Sailor Joe, we totally understand. Season can't get here fast enough as we are sitting here talking on a Wednesday, 143 days till Texas.
Wait, is he talking about like a video game or the actual season?
I think he's talking about the video game.
Yeah. Okay.
He's ready for the video game to come out.
Way back in the day when that game was new, I used to be the guy that would like wait for that game to come out and run to the store and buy it. Now I haven't played a video game, Chad. Oh, I haven't played a video game in about, it feels like forever. I will say though, yesterday, I took my daughter to the dentist yesterday. I had to long story that I want to get. We had to go to a dentist down in Bee Cave. She had to have some kind of emergency procedure done. So it's from my house. It's about a 55-minute drive. So my wife and I went. We wanted to be there for this appointment. So I get there and I'm like, we have our normal dentist we go to, right? But he couldn't get my daughter in. So we said, "Hey, is there anyone you would refer her to or feel comfortable referring us to? Because we need to get her in as soon as possible." So he said, "Hey, this dentist." So we made the drive to Bee Cave. We get down there and I'm like, "Oh, our doctor needs to up his game." And they had like full on video games in the lobby. Like one of those ones where you could pick like 50 different arcade games to play. So I was like a little kid. I'm like, "Oh, Donkey Kong, Pac-Man, here I come." So
Jason, remember the number one rule of that area. If you're not going to a doctor in Bee Caves, be very careful when you go to the doctor in Bee Caves because they are going to crank everything up a little bit.
Oh yeah. I was like, man, this is legit, dude. Like not just like bottles of water, like fancy like seltzers to drink. Like, "Hey, help yourself." I'm like, "All right, doc, we need to get to our doctor to up his game, man." And as soon as I started plugging into Donkey Kong, they called my daughter back. I'm like, damn it. So I didn't even get to play Donkey Kong.
Oh my God. They took you away from Donkey Kong. It's like you're telling your regular doctor that the place smelled of rich mahogany. And it's like a whole deal. Good luck to everybody when that video game does come out.
So see what you guys chime in on this chat about random things, and it just gets me talking about stupid shit. So thanks for the video game reference to Sailor Joe's.
There you go. All right, Jason, before we wrap up, anything else we need to hit? We covered a lot of ground, starting with Ojo and finishing with this visitor list. Anything else we need to hit?
Yeah, the only thing I can say before we get going, Chad, it's going to be a busy weekend. We mentioned all the recruits being on campus. So I will be down on campus all day into the evening on Saturday. And then I'm driving down to Houston Saturday night. And then Sunday morning, I'll be up and at them at an Under Armour camp down in Houston. So there's a lot going on this weekend. I'm going to be dragging my behind. When you guys see me next week, I'll probably have bigger bags under my eyes than I normally do. But it'll be an active recruiting weekend. We'll have coverage all over orangebloods.com.
Going to be very, very cool once again. All right, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Jason's going to be all over the state, and our guy John at Longhorn Wealth Management Group. He's not all over the state, but he is up in the Dallas area. He was a 15-year member up there at the Dallas Texas Ex's board, and now he's helping lead the build out over in Collin County of that Texas Ex's chapter. So if that's your neck of the woods, check John out. Tell him you heard about him on Orange Bloods Live. He wants to get all you Orange Bloods Live fans up to date and optimizing your own financial futures. So take advantage of this free 90-minute private consultation that John is offering. You can learn how to work with a certified financial planner like John, help you identify and implement the strategies and solutions that you need to ensure you achieve all of your wealth management goals and dreams, including ensuring your retirement income vision is realized and securing your estate planning and legacy wealth transfer desires, all really important. You can call John at 972-707-4900 or go online to longhornwealth.net. Get that free 90-minute private consultation scheduled today. And again, thanks to John and the crew at Longhorn Wealth Management Group for being a great partner with us here at Orange Bloods Live. Thank you guys for jumping in the chat today. And again, keep your eyes peeled for all kinds of recruiting stuff and all kinds of content on Orange Bloods Live. Football with Friends at 6 this evening. Tonight, there's an Outsiders at 8:30. Going to talk about the Longhorns at the Masters. We know one of them. Scotty Scheffler's going for some serious history that only Jack Nicklaus has ever done. Also, Chance Mock, the Mock 5 Top 5. What would Chance put on the menu if he was at the Champions Dinner and he'd won the Masters? What would he have? His top 5 Champions Dinner items. And then tomorrow morning, you got the old-fashioned with Anwar. Like Jason said, check out orangebloods.com for the very latest on recruiting and everything else. The portal, what are we sitting here on the 9th? The portal is a week away. When we get the recruiting hour to you next week, it'll be the day the portal opens as well. So there's no telling what we'll be talking about. Speaking of the portal, we will be talking about that today on House Divided. Check us out at noon because Sark did say it out loud. He specifically told the media yesterday what position groups Texas will probably be looking at in the portal. So we'll get into that later on today. Thank y'all for liking, subscribing, getting your notifications. We really appreciate the support. Until next Wednesday for another recruiting hour, he's Jason. I'm Chad. We are Orange Bloods Live. Y'all take care and good luck to anybody who's dating girls from McAllen or not from McAllen.